Hello, peaceful people. This is Emily from the Peaceful People Project. Today, I want to talk to you guys about youth bullying for 3 reasons. First of all, because of Pink Shirt Day. This originated in 2007 at Central Kings Rural High School in Nova Scotia when a grade 9 student, Charles McNeil, wore a pink shirt on the first day of school. He got bullied for it, but the good thing was some other boys stuck up for him. They somehow got a hold of 50 pink shirts and distributed them to other kids at the school and staff members at the school, and they all wore pink shirts as a sign of solidarity for Charles, to let him know that they didn't approve of others bullying him and they wouldn't tolerate it. So from that, this became an annual tradition. I think that that's really awesome, and I think that it took a lot of courage for those boys to do that. So this event was observed, like I said, on April 9th here in Barrie, with an event at the Community Wholeness Center for kids in elementary schools and high schools. Now, the women I spoke to who ran the event said that they actually ran into some issues with bullying right at the anti-bullying event. They had kids arguing, they had kids complaining during the scavenger hunt saying, "Oh, my group left me here, she doesn't like me, he said this, he did that." And I have to say, I wasn't that surprised, because kids who need an anti-bullying intervention aren't going to have the best teamwork skills. The second reason why I'm doing this video is because of a truly shocking article I saw on the internet last night by Izzy Kalman, who started the website Bullies to Buddies. He's a psychologist. I have no idea how that happened, because the things he says are just batshit crazy. I won't read the whole article to you now, but he basically tells kids to act like the bully is your friend. Act like the bully is trying to help you by saying mean things. Don't tell an adult. I'm going to post the link here, and I'll also post it in the description. But it basically tells victims that bullying is their fault, and they just need to conform better or toughen up, and it'll stop. He calls it victim proofing, but a lot of other people call it victim blaming, and I think victim blaming is much closer to the truth. The third reason why I'm doing this video is because I experienced a fair bit of bullying myself growing up, at school and at summer camp. From about grades 4 through grade 8, I experienced bullying in school, and bullying at camp was later on. I can tell you about all the times I had my face smashed into a chain link fence on the way home from school in grade 4 in the dead of winter. I could tell you about having my gloves thrown in the road. I could tell you about having my things stolen into my backpack. I could tell you about being beaten up for no good reason. I could tell you about a lot of other things. I could tell you about the time my brother was almost choked to death on a school bus home from a field trip by the strings of his own hoodie. I could tell you all of that, but I don't think it's really all that productive. So instead, I'm going to tell you about a rare time in my elementary school career when I was not being bullied. An oasis, an eye of the storm, if you will. This happened in grade 7. Looking back, as an adult, I can see that it was no accident. The reason why I was not bullied in grade 7 was because I had a truly awesome teacher. His name was Kevin Stapleton. Mr. Stapleton didn't actually say anything about bullying. He didn't say that it was wrong, that he wouldn't tolerate it, or any of that, although he certainly didn't. Instead, he set up our classroom like a positive community. One of the first things he did was he divided us into groups of 4, and he set up a currency system of Stapleton money. And we would earn money for doing positive things, like if everyone in the group finished their homework on time, or for being kind, for helping out around the classroom. There were a lot of ways you could earn money. And the only way you could really lose money was by deliberate cruelty or not taking responsibility, or basically if you got in trouble you deserved it. But there were a lot of ways to succeed. He set up the groups. He didn't let us pick for obvious reasons, because 11 and 12-year-olds, that's not going to end well. He set up the groups so that there was at least one person in each group who he thought had leadership ability. One of those people was a boy named Shane, who was just really nice to everyone, whether they were popular or not. And I actually ran into him again years later on a bus, and he started talking to me about elementary school, and I told him, Shane, I don't really want to talk about that because I didn't have a lot of friends there. And he said, "That's not true, Emily. I was your friend." Unfortunately, the following summer, August of 2009, he died of a drug overdose. And pretty much everyone who was in Mr. Stapleton's class with him and with me showed up for that. And it was just this really wonderful reunion. But anyway, back to grade 7. Mr. Stapleton had us working together. He had us understand that everyone in the class was different, but at the same time, that was a good thing because everyone had something positive to contribute somehow. There was one boy named Joel who was an amazing football player. So when we played football in gym class, everyone wanted Joel on their team. There was one girl named Samantha who was really amazing at soccer, and when we played soccer, everyone wanted her on their team for the same reason. There was one girl named Debbie who did absolutely hilarious, spot-on impressions of Beavis and Butthead, which doesn't sound like a huge deal now, but when you're 12, that has a great deal of social clout. People even valued me that year because I would always help them with their French homework, which they found difficult, but I didn't have a problem with it. So, another thing that Mr. Stapleton did once he got us all getting along was he took us on a lot of fun field trips. He did a lot of fun things with us. He did this as long as everything was going well. If people were mean to each other, if people acted immature, if people didn't deserve the fun Stapleton, then there would be hell to pay. He had no qualms about yelling at people and punishing people if they did something stupid. For example, one boy named Chris at one point threw a packet of salt in my eye, and that was just not acceptable. Instant detention right away. I retaliated by drawing a picture of Chris's face on a gorilla's body. Yeah, I know, but I was 12. I didn't get punished quite as badly, but Mr. Stapleton told me, that's not cool, that's not very nice. Chris can't talk how he looks. And he was kind of right, because in the previous years, I had been called stupid and fat and retard, brainiac. Yeah, I know, retard and brainiac. Figure that one out. Brown noser, spaz, because I wasn't good at sports, and on and on and on. So, again, drawing a boy's face on a gorilla's body was not a nice thing to do. So, when things were going well, which was most of the time, we did a lot of fun things in that class. We went on a lot of fun field trips, we put on a play, Oliver Twist, and we even had opportunities to reach out to the community. For example, at Christmas time, we went caroling at a senior's home and at a grocery store. And this taught us that we could do a lot of positive things. That young people, including us, were not all bad, and we had the capacity to help others instead of hurting them. One of my most positive memories of grade 7 was, well, first of all, the last day when we went on a trip to Centennial Beach Park, and we played games in the morning, and then we had a barbecue for lunch. And we'd planned on a scavenger hunt in the afternoon, but we had to go back to the school early because it was pouring rain. But it was just a really fun day of being together and getting along with my classmates one last time before the end of the year. My other really positive memory of grade 7 was when we did a yearbook. And in the yearbook, people just talked about all the fun things we had done that year. Most notably, our trip to Dorset. About, I think it was 3 days of hands-on outdoor education, snowshoeing, playing broom ball, going on hikes and seeing things like frozen waterfalls, studying the inside of a beaver, which was a little gross, but again, it was really happy times being together. And at the end of the yearbook, one of my classmates wrote, "This yearbook is dedicated to Mr. Stapleton for being the best teacher ever." And I know that sounds kind of corny, but he was. Now, I wish I could say that Mr. Stapleton fixed everything. I wish I could say that nobody ever bullied anyone at all after the experience of being in his class. But things didn't work out that way. The following year, when I was in grade 8, Mr. Stapleton went to another school, and things gradually drifted back to the way they had always been. And grade 8 became just as untenable for me as grades 4, 5, and 6. But in that, I think we can learn a positive lesson. This teaches us that it's not enough to have isolated stopgap events to address the problem of bullying. You need to have positive role models in the classroom with those kids day in and day out, showing them the right way and giving them guidance when they don't get it quite right. You can't just swoop in with your pink shirts and pink scarves and scavenger hunts for one day of the year and call it good, because it's not going to work. A few years later, Mr. Stapleton fell victim to some bullying of his own. He got upset with some boys in his class, and they retaliated and accused him of sexual harassment and molestation, because he actually had some of the kids over to his house sometimes, because a lot of them came from rather troubled backgrounds. So, of course, the powers that be at the school believed these boys, and Mr. Stapleton had some legal issues. I don't know exactly how that turned out, but I felt so bad for him that he had to go through it in the first place. By this time I was in grade 9. I still had the yearbook. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, and I really looked for it before making this video, but I couldn't find it. I still had the yearbook. I called his house. I left a message. I said I could help him. He called me back. But then I chickened out. I didn't call him back again. So, Mr. Stapleton, if you're watching this video, I'm really sorry. I am really sorry that I chickened out, and I didn't help you after all that you did for me. But I think that having this experience in grade 7 gave me a lot of valuable insight that I wanted to share with you guys about how to truly address the problem of bullying so that it doesn't happen anymore. Telling kids to ignore the bullies doesn't work. Telling kids to basically roll over and take it, like Izzy Kalman said, doesn't work. In fact, it's extremely detrimental. I tried that during the worst of it, and it just made things worse, and it made me feel worse about myself. And if anyone reads that article, please don't take it seriously. And like I said, just stopgap events and sporadic lectures, sporadic activities and challenge days, they don't work either. Instead, you need to set up a positive community where the idea of bullying just doesn't come up, because the idea of being inclusive and accepting everyone is just so much cooler. It's not easy. It's not pretty. It's going to take more resources than any of the other methods that are used most often, but that's really the only way it's going to work. So, another reason why I think it's especially important to address this now is because even when I was being bullied at school and when I was being bullied at summer camp, this was before social media. This was back in the days when bullying at school stayed at school and home was a safe haven. This isn't the case anymore. I mean, take a look at Rehtaeh Parsons, who killed herself because of videos that were taken of her being raped that were put on the internet and they went viral. She was called a slut over that, which is incredibly messed up. So, again, set the stage so that kids don't want to bully each other. Set the stage so that they want to get along, so that they all see the good in each other. You don't have to be a teacher to do this. You can do it just in your everyday life. You can volunteer with kids at the YMCA like I have done. You can join an organization that's designed for all ages, like the steel band I participate in. If you know young people, if you have friends or relatives who are in that oh-so-difficult age group, which you can't even really define. For me, it was from ages 9 to 13, but for some people, it starts younger, or it starts a bit older, or it ends a bit later. If you know a young person who's being bullied, listen to their story. Believe them. And never, ever tell them that it's their fault. Don't tell them they need to toughen up. They've been incredibly tough in being able to tell you in the first place. Unfortunately, there are no easy answers. But by being willing to look into the difficult answers and the long-term solutions, that's how we can put an end to this.